Your neighbor with the brand new SUV is broke. The woman down the street driving the dented 10-year-old Honda, she's a millionaire. They live on the same street, make roughly the same paycheck, and yet they are living in two entirely different financial universes. Let me explain. Let's call the neighbor Clay. Every 3 years, like clockwork, a new Tahoe shows up in his driveway. Fresh paint, temporary tags, and that smug little dealership license plate frame. 4 houses down is Hannah. She's driving a 2013 Honda CR-V with a scuffed bumper and 190,000 miles on the dash. Here's the reality the driveway hides. Clay has $8,000 of negative equity and a monthly car payment that is going to outlive his patience. Hannah has a 7-figure net worth. So what does driving the same car for 10 years actually say about you? Spoiler alert, it doesn't mean you're cheap. It means something much more interesting and honestly, a little uncomfortable for most people to admit. Today we are going to run the actual numbers. We'll look at what the data says about who keeps their cars the longest and figure out what that 10-year-old car is really telling the world. By the end of this video, I promise you, you will look at your neighbor's driveway very differently. Let's dive in. Let's start with the thing nobody wants to think about because it ruins that magical new car smell: depreciation. Here is the brutal truth. The moment Clay drives that $70,000 Tahoe off the dealership lot, it quietly sets a massive chunk of its own value on fire. No flames, just gone. A brand new car loses about 20% of its value in the very first year and roughly 60% by year 5. So Clay's $70,000 truck is worth about $56,000 by the time he parks it in his garage. By the time he's bored of it 3 years later, it's worth maybe $35,000. That is tens of thousands of dollars evaporated for the privilege of being the first guy to spill coffee in the cup holder. But here's the part almost nobody clocks. Depreciation is front-loaded. It is absolutely savage in the early years, and then it flattens out hard. That means the most expensive years to own a car are years 1 through 5. The cheapest years per mile, years 6 through 15. The back half of a car's life is the ultimate bargain. So when Clay trades in his car at year 3, he eats the absolute worst of the depreciation, hands the cheap, reliable miles to a stranger, and then climbs right back onto the steepest part of the curve, over and over and over again. I call this renting the curve. Clay isn't buying cars, he's just renting the single most expensive stretch of the depreciation curve on a permanent loop. Hannah, on the other hand, bought the whole curve once a decade ago, and she's been living comfortably on the cheap end of it ever since. But depreciation isn't even the part that should scare you. The payment is. Let me show you some math that genuinely changed how I look at personal finance. Right now, the average new car payment in America has hit around $800 a month, and that's the average. More than 1 in 6 new car buyers are now paying over $1,000 a month. Here is what Hannah understands that Clay doesn't. A car payment isn't just a monthly expense. It is an anti-investment. It is the exact opposite of building wealth. Watch what happens when you take that same $800 and instead of handing it to a lender for a depreciating hunk of metal, you invest it into a basic S&P 500 index fund. By the time Clay signs the paperwork for his second Tahoe, Hannah's brokerage account has quietly passed $30,000. By his fourth truck, she is north of $250,000. He's got a slightly newer infotainment screen. She's got the kind of FU money where she can walk into her boss's office and not be afraid to say no. If you run Clay's 3-year upgrade habit across his whole working life, from age 25 to 65, it costs him just over $2 million in lost wealth. Run that at the market's actual historical average, it's closer to 4 or 5 million. Let me be crystal clear about what we just found. The choice was never new car versus old car. The choice is new car versus retiring a decade early. Clay didn't just buy a nicer commute. He quietly sold his future to pay for it. Now, I can hear the objection forming in the comments right now because it's the one everybody reaches for. But old cars break down. Hannah's going to get destroyed on mechanics bills. It sounds reasonable, which is exactly why it keeps so many people broke. Let's run the actual numbers. Clay's payment of $800 a month equals $9,600 a year. Let's call it 10 grand. Now, let's say Hannah has an absolute nightmare year with her Honda. The transmission mount goes, boom, $1,400. Plus she needs a new wheel bearing and some AC work. Call it a brutal $3,000 total in repairs. She is still nearly $7,000 ahead of Clay that year. And most years, she isn't spending $3 grand. She's spending a couple hundred on an oil change, some tires, and a sensor that decided to throw a tantrum on the highway. The data backs this up. When you look at the all-in cost of owning a car, repairs and maintenance are consistently the smallest controllable cost. The real killers are depreciation and interest. A paid-off older car zeroes out one and totally collapses the other. The repair argument isn't just wrong, it's backwards. The old car only feels expensive because the repair cost shows up all at once at the mechanic shop, whereas the new car payment gets quietly drained out of your checking account every month where you've trained yourself not to look at it.
So if keeping your car is this obviously smart, why does it feel so weird to do it? Why does everyone around you keep trading in? Because nobody, and I mean nobody, in the entire car buying machine makes a dime when you keep your car. The dealer makes money when you buy. The finance office makes money on your loan. The lender makes money on your interest. The automaker needs you back on that lot every 3 years or their entire business model falls apart. Financially speaking, when you keep your car for 10 years, you are the villain in their story. The entire system has been engineered to get you to replace, not repair. The clearest evidence? The 84-month car loan. Car loans used to be 3, maybe 4 years. Today, a 7-year car loan is incredibly common. People are signing up to pay for a car longer than most modern relationships last. The genius of the long loan is that it lets the dealer sell you a monthly number instead of a price. And the second you start thinking in monthly payments instead of total price, you have already lost. It gets darker because people trade in cars before their 7-year loans are up. They are often underwater, meaning they owe more than the car's worth. So Clay walks in owing $52,000 on a Tahoe that is now only worth $44,000. He is $8,000 in the hole before he even shakes the salesman's hand. The salesman just smiles, slides the paperwork over, and says, "No problem, we'll just roll that into your new loan." Boom! Clay is now financing his old mistake on top of his new one. He's paying for a truck he doesn't even own anymore, wrapped inside a truck he can't actually afford. That is the perpetual payment trap. And the only people who escape it are the ones who do the boring, uncool thing. They pay the car off and they just keep driving it. Which brings us right back to Hannah and what her 10-year-old CR-V actually says about her. What that new Tahoe was really selling Clay wasn't transportation. It was selling a feeling. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. You buy something new, you get a massive spike of joy, and then your brain quietly resets that thing as the new normal. Within 5 years, roughly a third of that happiness boost is entirely gone. So Clay chases a bigger hit, a newer truck, a louder engine. But here's the catch. The badge on the grill isn't really for him. It's to be seen. A car is the purest social signal we have. Unlike your salary or your 401k balance, everybody in traffic can see what you drive. So Clay's financed Tahoe is, in a very real sense, a costume. It's money he doesn't have, spent to impress people he doesn't know, chasing a feeling that was always going to fade. Hannah's dented CR-V is the exact opposite. It's not a costume, it's a tale. It quietly says, here is a person who values what stays over what shows. Psychologists call this low time preference, which is just a fancy way of saying you'd rather be wealthy later than look wealthy now. And if you think I'm just romanticizing Hannah here, let's look at what actual millionaires drive. When researchers surveyed thousands of real millionaires for the famous book The Millionaire Next Door, the most common cars they owned weren't Ferraris or Mercedes. They were Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords. Something like 60% of high-earning households don't even own a single luxury brand car.
Even Warren Buffett, one of the richest men on earth, famously drove a Cadillac with hail damage just because he got a discount on it. The people who look rich and the people who are rich are very rarely the same people. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said keeping a car forever is always the right move. I am not trying to turn you into someone who drives a dangerous death trap just to win a financial argument. So let's be fair to the other side for a second. When should you actually upgrade? First, safety. Cars have genuinely gotten much safer over the last decade. Things like automatic emergency braking have been shown to cut rear-end crashes in half. If your car predates that tech and you're driving your kids around, that is a real non-financial reason to upgrade. No amount of saved money matters if you aren't around to spend it. Second, the reliability cliff. A 10-year-old Honda and a 10-year-old luxury German sports sedan are not the same bet. One is a workhorse. The other can turn into a massive money pit the second the factory warranty dies. Third, the break-even point. There is a genuine point where your repairs reliably start costing you more per year than a sensible used car would cost you. When your engine block cracks or the transmission explodes, replacing it isn't weakness, it's just math. So no, the answer isn't drive it until the wheels fall off no matter what. The answer is to make the call based on actual numbers instead of letting a car salesman in a polo shirt make it for you. Here is what I really want you to take away from all of this. If you are sitting there right now feeling a little self-conscious about your older car, maybe you park it a row away from the nice cars at work, feeling like the faded paint says something bad about where you are in life, I need you to flip that completely. That car is not a sign you are behind. For a lot of people, it is the single clearest sign you are ahead. Every month you don't make a car payment is a month you quietly voted for your future self over a stranger's opinion of you in traffic. Nobody is ever going to throw you a parade for it. The dealership isn't going to mail you a thank you card for the SUV you didn't buy. The reward is completely invisible right now, but it shows up 10, 20 years later as a massive number in an investment account that hands you choices other people simply don't get to make. The 10-year-old car isn't about transportation. It tells the world that you would rather be free than look the part. So, keep the car, invest the difference, and let everybody else keep renting their dopamine 3 years at a time. If this video reframed how you see the car in your driveway, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos on the psychology of money, and I will see you in the next one.